What up? Welcome back to Rethink. Jim is in Scotland, so we have a very, very special guest with us today. This is Jordan Burgen.
Hey.
The more important Burgen.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, more fun, wise.
Much more fun.
Yeah.
I don't run around the countryside wearing a skirt.
No, definitely not wearing a skirt. Probably cowboy boots, too. Cowboy boots and a skirt.
For sure.
For sure. But you do wear Chris Anderson, the Birdman. Nuggets jerseys.
He's the best player of all time.
Maybe
sorry.
second best.
It's close. I saw his
Him and
pyramid
JR?
with like tier 1, tier 2.
Yeah, they can even share the top of the...
I think at tier 1 be Chris Anderson, J.R. Smith.
Yeah, really at the top. Earl Boykins, a close third.
Yes.
Yeah, Stallion.
For sure.
Stallion. The Nuggets won last night.
I know.
It's 2-2.
That was awesome.
Yeah, it's so good. I have tickets for Tuesday, and I have to sell them. I'm so sad.
Just give them to me.
You want me to give them to you?
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
But have Jamal Murray, Kentucky Wildcats.
He is.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out Kentucky. I like him.
I love him.
I like him less because of Kentucky, but I like him a lot because of the Nuggets.
I get it.
Yeah,
I respect that.
It's fine. Hey, before we jump in, thanks again for sharing it. Continue to like these posts, share them, invite friends to them, comment on them. Actually, for next week, we want you guys to send in emails. I'm actually going to touch on that a little bit here in a second. But send in emails or jump on the YouTube page and shoot in a bunch of comments and questions. We want to do a Q&A next week when Jim gets back. Just a rapid fire. We'll answer your questions, roll through them. And the questions that we don't answer actually will play into a part of your role here at Flatirons. So send in your questions, no matter what they're at, what they're about. They could be about Jesus, about bourbon if you want to, about skirts in Scotland.
Scotland skirts.
Skirts. Oh, he's gonna kill us.
So
yeah. Send in your questions. We'd love to answer them next week or the week after. We'll see where he wants to roll with this next podcast. But otherwise, you'll have a bunch of questions to answer.
Can't wait.
So let's dive into that first.
Yeah.
So there's a thing that you've added on in the past couple weeks. That's
Yeah,
part
I
of your
just
role.
started. So I've always gotten like tons of. Well, the church in general gets tons of emails about.
Explain what's your role first.
My title is assistant director of men's soul work, and I'm not quite sure what that means.
Yeah, that's perfect.
No one else does either, so we just kind of make stuff up.
Yeah.
Not really, but I'm in charge of. Well, not in charge. I'm a part of a team that does a lot of spiritual formation, leading groups. I'm pretty involved with the Crucible soul work type stuff we do on the men's side of things. So if you've ever been on a weekend, you've probably seen me on that weekend as well.
Yeah.
And
that's the weekend where we don't wear clothes and we can talk
no
about it.
clothes.
Yeah.
Unless skirts.
Skirts.
You can wear
Skirts and cowboy boots.
Yeah. So my job reaches in different areas for sure. But one of the things I've kind of picked up doing is these emails that come into the church with general questions, anywhere from what does this Bible passage mean? Why is this story in there? To what are you guys' views on women in leadership and homosexuality? Runs the gamut of questions. And there's just kind of, I'm one of the people that answers a lot of those questions. So they'll send those to me and then I will craft a response. I've done everything from, like I said, more social issues of women in leadership, what are our policies on that, all the way to are there any ancient documents prove that Jesus existed outside of the Bible. I've done like whole research papers on that.
Awesome. So your dogs go to heaven. That
stuff like that for sure. I started posting those in a blog on the Flatirons website.
Which is, you find that flatironschurch.com/resources.
So it's called Good Questions with Jordan Burgen. And it's literally my email responses to people. I keep the people who send them in anonymous, so you're not going to be able to find like who asked this stupid question or something like that. But other than that, like it's just random questions, and I pick the good ones out and put them on the website.
That's great.
It's a good resource for kind of frequently asked questions.
Troubleshooting things, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So your email address is jordan_burgen@flatironschurch.com.
Yep.
They can also send emails. We want them to send emails to rethink@flatironschurch.com for next week's episode.
Okay.
Or post your questions on the YouTube page under this
video. On the YouTube page, there's also just the general contact form on the website.
Yeah.
It's kind of how they filter in through me most of the time.
Cool.
And then, so any of those platforms, we'll find your question and we'll get it answered.
Get it answered
Yeah.
in the best way possible. It's perfect. Also, you're writing a book.
Yep.
What is that book?
So this book was formed out of a weakness in my life, actually. It's a book about spiritual leadership of the home and what that actually means. So I've never actually known what that term means.
Yeah.
It's just
It's thrown around a lot.
Yeah,
though.
it's thrown around a lot. And before I got married, and then in the first few years of my marriage, that was just the term that was like, I think I'm doing this right. I think I know what being a husband means: provide, protect. Good
to go.
Yeah. So put food on the table, make sure that we live under a roof, and then
You stand at the door with a gun every night. Make sure people don't come in.
lock the door and then have a gun like pointed at it. That's how you protect. And that's what I just figured marriage and fatherhood was. As long as I was checking these boxes, I was good. Until one day, my wife literally sat me down and went, "You're spiritually leading us terribly. Like you aren't being the spiritual leader of the home that we need you to be."
What do you mean by that?
I didn't know, but I knew that she was right.
Yeah.
And it was almost one of those things that I knew that for a long time, and I was being passive and didn't want to figure out what it actually meant because that would make my life harder. So that was kind of my wake up call, kicking the butt to go, I'm going to figure out what this actually means because no one's really ever taught that to me very well. And so in my search to figure that out, I just started writing down my thoughts, and writing down what I was discovering in the Bible. And what I found was this story of King Solomon. The first few chapters of First Kings is about how Solomon came to be king of Israel and what he had to do to set up his kingdom to be successful. So following kind of that story arc, I've compared that to what it looks like to set up your kingdom well and lead it well, and more than just provide and protect, because there is more elements to those two words, especially. It's not just physical provision and protection. So finding out what the spiritual part of that, and then also combining that with because the New Testament talks about husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. So figuring out what Jesus did for the church and then applying that to our lives of how we can do that for our families. So there's plenty of stuff in the Bible that gives you a good
an outline
for it. Sure, it's just you got to dig for it a little bit. And I've done that digging, and I'm still digging. But this book will eventually be what all my findings, and so I'm pretty excited about it.
It'll be awesome. So flesh that idea out more of. Leah sits you down at the kitchen table for a conversation that isn't very fun. What have you started? Like, what were you not doing then that you're doing now?
Okay.
What steps have you taken without giving away what you're writing in the book, but like fleshing it out more of like what steps are you taking to lead Leah and Jonah and Carter and why am I blanking on your daughter's name?
Because you're not
Eden.
good friend.
Eden.
Oh,
yeah, I'm a good friend. I'm a good friend.
You did
it. Yeah.
So literally before she sat me down, it was a very just unspiritual household outside of like, all right, it's Sunday or it's Saturday. Let's go to church. No one really wants to, but like kind of expected of us. So let's go. And then me and her would never pray together very often. And if we did, it was because she asked for it.
Sure.
So it was never my leadership that would go, hey, let's pray together, or let's read something together. That was always her going, hey, trying to pull it out of me.
Why do you think you were resistant to that?
There was an element in me that was afraid of, one, not doing it right, but even more than that, kind of coming up short in like the fact that it was really just a fear of being laughed at almost. It was this fear of, you're trying to do what now? Like you're trying to pastor me? No thanks. I got this. For like that's the story I made up about like what she would say if I ever tried to do this. I just didn't feel qualified enough. I didn't feel like I had anything to offer. So if I tried, especially a couple of years into marriage where I hadn't been doing it, so I'm just going to flip this switch and start praying all the time. Like that just seems like it would have been, a little contrived, and like she would have just seen right through it and gone, no, like we're operating this way. We're fine.
Yeah.
Let's just keep going that way.
Yeah.
And it really is this, dang it. I forgot what I was going to say. I do that a lot.
I do that too. That's fine. I have another question for you. So
Okay.
we're good. Yeah. So keep pushing down that thought process of like, what are you doing now? So it's like, it's one thing to be like, we sit down and we read the Bible every night, you know, but it's like, you're doing more than that.
Right. And no, we don't do that.
Yeah.
What we do is I've just tried to be more active and I'm not perfect at this yet.
Yeah.
Like I said,
you're better at it than I am. So keep going.
I'm still figuring this out.
Yeah.
And I think like that was a fear of mine for writing the book. Is like, I'm literally doing this research because I have no idea what it means.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to try to get other people to read my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
But what I'm doing now is I do initiate praying with all my family.
Mm-hmm.
I try to enrich the spiritual lives of especially my wife and trying to lead her in that. We're doing like a book study right now, just me and her. I'm still trying to implement more things. That fear always creeps in of like, I'm not going to do this right. Mm-hmm. She would rather do this with other people, her girlfriends, her Bible study. That was always a big thing of mine, was just abdicating that role to other people, especially like her friends and her family. And she's reading a book with them. We're good. Cool.
Taking care
I have my
of that
group.
point.
She has her group. We can just kind of go it separately. But now we're trying to. We're also trying to figure out what in each of us causes like the conflicts in our marriage. Mm-hmm. And me, a lot, that is this very unemotional, detached personality that I have. Mm-hmm. I've always been afraid of being vulnerable, especially with her, especially with anybody really. I've just kind of shut down emotion in my life, and I get into that a lot in the book. Mm-hmm. So it was this, I'm not very emotionally expressive. And she really needs that. She needs like this person that can actually have a conversation about like real stuff. Yeah. And I'm very comfortable on surface level. And once we start digging a little bit deeper, I can get there. But it's been a struggle in our marriage with me just not having these abilities to really be real vulnerable and open.
What have you seen change in your guys' relationship leaning into that vulnerability, leaning into the like stepping outside of what's comfortable and what's easy? I mean, it's what Ben talked about this past weekend of like picking the narrower road, like picking the harder road because there's better things to get through. Not
the main thing, but one thing is I'm uncomfortable a lot.
Yeah.
The narrow road in my marriage is me just trying to initiate conversation, and instead of like zoning out to a TV show every night, or I'm tired, so bedtime took too long, so I'm just going to zone out here on my phone, is putting that down, keeping the TV off, and actually having a conversation about parenting or whatever she needs to talk through that day, or me going, usually right now, I'm having some issues at work. I'm having some issues with people in my life. And I'm an internal processor. I'll process that inside all day long.
It's safer that way.
Very much safer that way, and I never have to deal with anything. She draws that out of me, and it's so uncomfortable. And it always ends up in a really good spot. Yeah. It's just, man, it's hard, and the process is hard.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So there's people out here listening. There's men who don't know how to lead spiritually. There's men who don't know how to lead their family spiritually, or what that even means or looks like. So for the guy who's listening right now, what's the first step? like the actual initial step that he can take to lean into something like this?
The first step would be actually knowing what either you're getting into before you get married, or like most of us going, all right, what is my actual mission in my family?
Yeah. Most people don't have that mission. They're like, well, just...
Yeah, they think it's provide and protect, because
Yeah.
that's what the church and
Yeah.
just men's ministry in general just pushes on people. Is provide, protect. They
Yeah.
start with both. They both start with P, so you're good. Let's go. So it's just like, okay, cool. But the Bible does lay out like the mission of especially the husband and the father in a family.
Yeah.
It layers that out very clearly. You look in Deuteronomy 6, the whole love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Later on in that passage, it's like your kids are going to come to you with questions, and you got to figure out how to find those questions.
Yeah.
That's your job.
Yeah.
It's not the pastor's job. It's not kids ministry's job. It's not these other dudes. It's
Your pals.
it's not the youth pastor's job.
Yeah.
Like, it is your job to come up with those answers. You may not know them right now, but that's okay. You got to be able to find them.
Right.
And that's scary. It's you're being the spiritual, almost pastor of your family. And a lot of men don't get that. I didn't get it. Usually I still don't get it. Like Jonah, who's 6, I mean, he asked me what the Trinity was the other day. And like, if that email came into me now, like, every time that question comes in, I have to like do a whole another round of research because it's so complicated and so in depth.
Yeah.
But like, he's 6 asking that question. It's like, you can kind of like finagle around it.
You give him the Adventure Bible.
Yeah. They're all different, but they're the same too.
Here's a cartoon drawing.
Okay. It's a little easier to explain to a 6-year-old, but that question came to me, you know, and I'm glad that question came to me. He could have asked that to anybody, and who knows, like, I trust the school he's in, I trust some of those, but it's my responsibility, and the fact that he knows he can come to me with those questions, I think that means I'm doing something right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. There's also women that listen to this, so it's like there's women right now that are listening like, I wish my husband stepped in to lead me this way. When you've done, like, through your research, what you're looking at, what's a way that women can still lead in the house, but also then like set their husbands up to actually step into this type of leadership?
Well, the way my wife did it was she sat me down and told me I was terrible at it.
Yeah.
Like, there was some hard truth that she needed to tell me. A lot of men don't respond well to that, and that sucks. And I don't really have an answer for that at the moment. But there is an element of when there is an abdication or a vacuum of the way leadership is supposed to be in the home. Like, if you're a single mom, this is your job.
Yep.
You know, like, it's not just because you don't have a penis doesn't mean that you can't.
Wiener, we say wiener.
Oh, wiener, sorry. Just because you don't have a wiener doesn't mean that you can't step into that. If there's not a man there. And my wife, those questions come to her too. My son asks her the same questions, you know, so, and she has to answer them as well.
And her role is not to say, well, go ask your dad.
No. I mean, she's there, and I completely welcome her responses, but the fact that she sat me down to have that conversation was life-changing for me. A lot of times when you think of when God created Adam and Eve, he created Eve as the helper. A lot of people misinterpret that as servant, or like the husband's the boss and you have to do whatever he says.
You're less than.
You're a helper. But kind of when my wife sat me down and gave me that hard truth, she was helping me be a better man just by shining light on my blind spots. Wasn't even blind. I knew it. She started that conversation. I was like, here it is. I've been avoiding this conversation for a long time. But she helped me see it. She helped me just bring it out in front of me, shine some light on it, and go, all right, this is what I need to work on. This is what she's telling me I need to work on so I can be that better husband and father. And that she helped me become a better man by telling me what I was doing wrong. You know?
Which is super hard to hear.
Right. So I think the Holy Spirit speaks through our wives a lot, because that's how it was set up, that they're our helper. They're kind of like that tangible voice. You always have that voice in the back of your head telling you what you should probably be, like your conscience or whatever. But your wife's always there to go very blatantly, like, you suck at this. And I appreciate that most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time it's good. Taylor's really good at pointing that out at me, like, hey, you suck at this. I'm like, what am I good at right now?
Yeah, when it's only that, it kind of gets a little draining.
You said earlier, there's ways for men to step into this before they get married, or there's people like us who stepped into marriage and we're like, shoot, what do we do here? You know, for the guy who is stepping into that, John C is looking to jump into something like that, right? Right, John C?
Yeah, pretty soon.
Look at that.
That's a good day. It's coming. For the person about to step into that, or the person who's 10 years down the road from stepping into that, or the guy who's like, I don't have a plan for this right now. What do I do? What should they be doing right now to set themselves up better to be the spiritual leader?
Well, the first step is the same. You got to know what you're going to be getting into. You have an advantage if you're not married already, because you haven't already screwed people up or failed already. So you have that advantage of going into this knowing that what's expected of you as the husband or in the future father. So just that first element of going, all right, I have to figure out what is actually expected of me. Is huge. And without that, the rest of the pieces don't really fall. And the next few steps would be kind of figuring out those areas in your life that you need to improve, like the sin and the obstacles in your life, the shame in your life, this fear and insecurity in your life, and finding the roots to what causes that sin.
Yeah, because that's all surface level.
Yeah,
right?
like the porn, or I struggle with porn. I'm going to stop looking at porn. Like, you can white knuckle that all you want. Eventually, you're going to fail, and the lust element of that's still there. There's something underneath of that that's probably not even inherently bad.
Right.
Like, you're just
searching for something good,
searching for affirmation or connection with somebody. So identifying those roots, and then figuring out how to go about addressing those roots in a healthy way. And that's ongoing. Yeah. Like that's your whole life. Yeah. But at least starting that process. Counseling's great at identifying roots. Stuff like Crucible is great at identifying those roots. Soul Beauty's great for women. And there's other ways. Those aren't the only ways. But and then the next few steps would be finding out where your weaknesses are. Maybe you just don't feel like you're very wise, or you don't feel like you operate. You only operate in chaos all the time. And the family, the home, doesn't ever really operate well in chaos. So maybe finding peace, like your weakness is having peace in your life, or something like that. But with Solomon, I point out in the book is. We always think of Solomon as the wisest man that ever lived, asterisk Jesus.
Yeah.
But we always think of that, and you always think that he always had that. But in 1 Kings 3, it talks about God offers him a blessing, and he goes, I'm really young. I don't know how to do this. I can't lead this kingdom well. I'm basically just a boy. Give me wisdom. And God's like, awesome. Gives him some wisdom. So identifying those weaknesses is not necessarily sin. It's just not something that you're built to do. And asking God to supplement that weakness. And he promises to do that. And then actually using that blessing. Solomon used his blessing of wisdom. Obviously, it's still reverberating today with his Proverbs and everything that is in the Bible. And then... what's the last one? Oh, spiritual disciplines. Yeah. That's huge. Yep. Setting up practices in your life that just become not routine in the fact that they just become
mundane,
and you don't really care about them anymore, but just routine ways to get closer to God every single day. These aren't massive, like, month-long fasts, or they can be. It's just...
It's a big step right out the gate.
You just can't like go all out right out the gate. Like I go work out with you, I'm not gonna lift the same amount of weight.
You could.
I might. I could try.
You would.
Let's try.
Yeah. Let's do it after this. Yeah.
But it's these small steps of, okay, so maybe I'm not going to read 10 chapters of the Bible every day, and I'm not going to have an hour-long prayer in solitude every single day, but I can pray every time I brush my teeth in the morning, and that's going to be my start. Or I can not listen to the radio on the way to work on Wednesdays, and I can pray on Wednesdays on the way to work.
Yep.
Small baby steps and then not staying there. Eventually you'll want to add more. But starting the practice of in your life, these regular disciplines that bring you closer to God. These aren't legalistic.
I have to do this.
I have to do this
in
or I'm
order
a terrible
to be
Christian.
good with God.
Yeah, it's like if that happens, you become legalist, and there's a wedge between you and God now, and there's doing the opposite of what you want to do.
Yeah.
So it's so lifting the shame off of spiritual disciplines, which churches have always loved to dump shame.
For sure.
If you don't read the Bible so many times or go to church this many times. But it's just implementing those in your life now so they flow seamlessly into your marriage and they flow seamlessly into your fatherhood. And if you're already married, that means you're starting those baby steps now. It's not coming into your house going, all right, we're doing hour-long prayer sessions at 6 a.m. every morning. You know, it's like, no, let's do some baby steps. Start praying with your kids at night. Pray before meals. Buy a kid's book and kid's Bible and start going through that every night. It's baby steps that kind of ramp it up slowly, so that you can bring your family closer to God, because that is ultimately your responsibility when you are the spiritual leader of your home.
That's great. My last question. So you made the comment, like, you had abdicated this and you knew it. There's a bunch of people listening that are like, oh, I abdicate here, here, and here, and I don't know what that looks like. So does that same idea apply of, like, start small, figure out small places you're abdicating and start working towards those bigger abdications? Or, like, what in your life has changed since Leah sat you down and shined light on this glaring thing? What would you tell the man right now who's like, I abdicate in 600 different ways and I don't know where to start?
Sure. I mean, you can't.
Do you start spiritually, or do you start with something small? I don't know. I don't even know.
I think it probably, I don't know everyone's wife, obviously, but it would probably start with a conversation. If she's on board with, like, the values of what we've been, like, of this type of stuff, then having a conversation with her going, I'm owning it, repenting of it, and confessing that, like, I haven't been the man I need to be for you. So I want you to start stepping into that and asking her where that might be, because she's probably been doing this much better than you for a while now, and she might not want to let the reins go quite yet. You kind of have to earn that trust back. So, and if she's not willing to do that at all, then it would be little ways. Start
doing things instead of saying you're going to do them.
Start emptying the dishwasher every night, you know? It can be as simple as that, but just if you really want to do this, then start proving that you can do it.
Yeah, that's great. Last question. Who do you think is going to sit on the Iron Throne at the end of this season?
I was hoping it was going to be Ghost.
I hope it's Ghost too.
They brought him back this season, and then they're just like, pet adoption.
Head north with Tormund.
That was the worst part of last night's episode.
Yeah. Without any, like, spoilers to it, this is a spoiler. How great was it? How great was it when the dragon got popped from the sky?
I was real upset, but it was a beautiful scene.
Dope scene. Yeah. Those, like, tentacle scorpions, whatever that thing is. Dope. Bad. Yeah. We need one. Yeah, let's build one.
Ken Apodaca can make us one.
I guarantee Ken Apodaca has one.
That was a great, terrible scene. Surprising. It was all like, everyone was so happy flying through the sky.
Oh, yeah. The music was great, and all of a sudden he's dead. R.I.P.
It made me not care at all that chick at the end got killed.
Got her head lopped off, yeah.
I was still reeling over Rhaegal.
Yeah, it's tough. So who's going to sit on the throne?
I'm hoping Jon Snow. I think Dany's going a little crazy.
I think she's turning into her dad, Mad King style. That's some Crucible stuff we can talk about later.
Nice.
There we go. Thanks for listening. See you next week.
See ya.